What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, everybody's coming out with a top 10 list now. Julius Erving had a top 10 list that everyone seemed to hate. Steph Curry had his top 10 list. Shaq now has come out with his top 10 NBA players list. Oh, if it's not a top 10 list, it's an all-time starting five, like Charles Barkley and others. But Shaq had a top 10 list, and this is his top 10. All right. So, I don't know if it's in any particular order, but he has Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan himself, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, Karl Malone, Isaiah Thomas, and I guess as a honorable mention, or maybe he has as a tie or something, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, I mean, that's his top 10 list, okay? And he's entitled to it. I'm keeping the same energy. That's his top 10 list, you know, and I respect his list. But I have to say, the disrespect toward Wilt Chamberlain, it's enough to really make me sad for the future, because I think what's going to start happening, man, I mean, Wilt already was starting to be kicked out of the top 3 and then top 5. Now he's starting to get kicked out of the top 10. This is a guy that, as recently as 20 years ago, was in the discussion for GOAT. Now, all of a sudden, he's not even in people's top 10 anymore. You know, and it's not just about numbers with Wilt. People tell me, oh, I'm just fixated on numbers. It's not just about numbers with Wilt. It's the dominance in which he put up these numbers. Nobody else in the NBA can replicate what he did. Nobody ever did anything close to what he did. It's not even close. He's the only person that can say he averaged a 30 and 20 in his career. He's the only person that can even say, hell, that he averaged a 30-15 in his career. Has anybody even averaged 30 and 10? No. No. So, for him to do what he did, night in and night out, and to be honest with you, they change rules. Some players have benefited off of rule changes that have enhanced their play. Steph Curry comes to mind. He's the main guy that comes to mind as far as a player, as far as who rule changes and analytics, they all helped Steph Curry a great deal. Not taking away from everything that he's done to prepare to be a great player, but analytics, the way the game is played, the freedom of movement rule that they implemented a couple of years ago, all of these things taking away pretty much being able to be physical defensively, you know, legal screens, all these things have helped to make him the player that he is. I'm not saying he wouldn't be great in other eras, but two-time MVP, multiple scoring champion, 4-time NBA champion. I don't know if he'd be the same player in the 90s and 2000s. That's all I'm saying. I think he'd be more of a top 25 to 30 player if he was playing in that era. Maybe 35. I think he'd be in the trajectory of the Gary Paytons. That's just my opinion. But Wilt Chamberlain actually changed rules because they hadn't seen anybody do what he'd been able to do then and since then. Not to that combination. Not to have a guy with that sheer combination of size, brute strength, and uber athleticism. Not to mention skill. He wasn't just this big brute out there dominating because of his size. This is a guy who played with the Harlem Globetrotters, for multiple years. That 1 year before he came to the league, but then in tournaments afterwards. This is a guy that it could have been a world-class Olympian. This is a guy that was a world-class shot putter. This is a guy that was a great volleyball player, power lifter, weightlifter. I mean, this is a guy that could run I think at his lightest, he was a 7-footer that could run a 4.2 or 4.25, something in that range. I'm just saying, like, we haven't seen anything like that since then. He's a once in a 100-year athlete. Yes, he only won 2 championships. But as I said before, in that whole era, who else was winning titles? Nobody else was winning championships when Bill Russell was playing with the Boston Celtics. And it wasn't just Bill Russell, by the way. It was Bill Russell. It was Tom Heinsohn. It was John Havlicek. It was Sam Jones. It was K.C. Jones. It was Bill Sharman, It was Bob Cousy. It was Frank Ramsey. They had the greatest coach, in my opinion, of all time, or at least top 2, in Red Auerbach. The greatest organization at the time, by far, in the league. Tom Sanders. I mean, they had a Hall of Fame squad. I mean, who really could beat them? If he wasn't beating them, nobody else was beating them. If he's a loser, then Jerry West was a loser. Everybody else was a loser between 1956 and 1969. Why is Wilt so stigmatized as it is? I get it, because he's so great, he should have won more, but my goodness, if you really look at those series and you look at those games, it wasn't like his team was getting blown out in sweeps. Much of those series were very competitive, but if you really look at those games, the backcourt of the Boston Celtics just was too much for the teams that Wilt Chamberlain played on. So I know people bring up 1969, what happened there. Yeah, Wilt had some bad games. A lot of players have had bad games. But at the end of the day, if we're going to be real about this, how many times has Shaq been swept in the playoffs? A record 6 times. Swept. I mean, would we be looking at Shaq the same way if he never got to play with the second greatest shooting guard of all time, Kobe Bryant, and either the third or fourth greatest shooting guard of all time, Dwayne Wade, maybe fifth greatest? But maybe looking at him in a totally different light as a guy that just couldn't get it done, no matter how great he was. Shaq played on some stacked teams as well. And I'm sorry, I don't know who in the hell rates Isaiah Thomas ahead of Wilt Chamberlain. That's hate to me. That's some hater shit. That's some hater shit, bro. Wilt Chamberlain below Isaiah Thomas? Like I said, people are entitled to their opinion, man, but my goodness. I mean, that's whatever. But anyway, tell me what you guys think, man. Like I said, he's entitled to his opinion, man. That's Shaq. But damn, like, Nobody loves Goliath, man.